Okay, Shalom. Good evening, all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, and double honors to the elders and the apostles of the great millstone of the world teach well. See, young brother here, Shamash 1 Ban Yehoda. I'll be getting into Isaiah, the 17th chapter. Another pretty much history, prophecy kind of video. As always, I have my Haley's Bible handbook handy. So I'll just get into it, get to the point. I'll probably read just about the whole thing. It's only 14 verses, so it's nothing terribly long. So the burden of Damascus, Isaiah 17:1, the burden of Damascus, behold, Damascus is taken away from being a city, it shall be a ruinous heap, right? So it's going to be brought down to a low estate. So you see here, Damascus, right? Pretty sure it's Damashak, but don't quote me on that. Damascus, silent is the sackcloth weaver, ancient trader city, capital Syria, located in the plain east of Hermon, 130 miles northeast of Jerusalem. Right? You look at any map, Syria is pretty much far to the north. Right? The cities of Aurora are forsaken; they shall be for flocks, which shall lie down, and none shall make them afraid. Right, so the towns of Aurora will be deserted, flocks will graze in the streets and lie down undisturbed, with no one to chase them away. Right, I'm going to tell you why it's going to happen in a few. We're just going to read down to right about the 4th verse. The fortress also shall cease from Ephraim, and the kingdom from Damascus, and the remnant of Syria shall be the glory of the children of Israel, saith the Lord of hosts. It shall come to pass that the glory of Jacob shall be made thin, and the fatness of his flesh shall wax lean. Right, so pretty much what this is talking about is, Israel and Damascus getting taken down by the Assyrians, and those lands being made very, very low. We know with the Israel, they were dragged off, into different lands of like the Medes and different places like that. Was it Habur or something like that? You can look at it. 2 Kings, the 17th chapter, pretty much, drag them away, to those kind of lands of the Medes, and kind of like in that kind of region, Mesopotamian region. And then you got to get into second Ezra, the 13th chapter, for the rest of the breakdown, which is something I think I talked about the same thing yesterday or the day before yesterday or something like that. I don't remember these videos, man. Because you in the spirit is sometimes like that. You're in the spirit, and Lord kind of have you say certain things, and you won't really remember them after, because it's the spirit, And then I'll go back later on, I'll rewatch the video, and I was like, what? I said all that? What the heck? I didn't know I knew all that. So this is Halley's Bible Handbook, page 208. So this is in the 2 Kings 17, right? Chapter 7, Hosea, 730 to 721 BC. Last king of Israel reigned 9 years. He paid tribute to the king of Assyria, but made a secret alliance with the king of Egypt. Then came the Assyrians, and he administered the final death blow to the northern kingdom. Samaria fell, and its people followed the rest of Israel into captivity. The prophets of that time were Hosea, Isaiah, and Micah. The northern kingdom had lasted about 200 years. Every one of its 19 kings had walked in the sins of Jeroboam, its founder. The Most High had sent prophet after prophet, and judgment after judgment, in an effort to turn the nation back from its sins, but in vain. Israel was joined to its idols. There was no remedy, and the wrath of God arose and removed Israel out of the land. Exactly, and that's what happened, and let me see, half no glory. I'll just get into this one real quick. This one, like, a prophet has no glory in his own land or something like that. I wish I said it. John's a prophet, took him for a prophet. It's in the holy place, prophet. Son of the prophet Jonas. Prophet is without honor, save his own country, his own house. Alright, so this is yeah, Matthew 13:53. Yahushua revisits Nazareth, and it came to pass that when Yahushua had finished these parables, he departed thence, and when he was come into his own country, he taught them in their synagogue, insomuch that they were astonished, and said, Whence hath this man this wisdom and these mighty works? Where does he get this wisdom and the miracle and the power to do these miracles? Right, the people in his hometown said, right, this is not the carpenter's son, right? So, think about it like us, applying it to us, man. Like, look at what people say about us. Man, is that you coming out there on those streets? Man, I remember you when you were like this big, man. You were doing this, This is not the carpenter's son. It's not his mother called Mary, and his brethren, James and Joseph, and Simon and Judas. Right, here you see his brothers. Right, our sisters and his sisters, are they not well with us? Whence hath this man all these things? They were offending him, and Yahushua said unto them, stop stumbling, all that. Rock of offense. A prophet is not without honor, save in his own country and his own house. Exactly. We're not honored. It's on everywhere except his own hometown, among his own family. If you take that one step further, we're also we're honored, just period, by our own people. And he did not many mighty works there because of their unbelief. So he only did a handful of miracles there, which I don't know if they're written somewhere else, but in the scriptures talk about so many miracles, couldn't be contained in the book. So pretty much what I'm saying is that, as a prophet, we don't really have a lot of honor or glory, not in our hometown, not among our family, not among our country, so it's even worse nowadays. I guess you could say we have honor, maybe possibly among these other nations. Hell, some of these other nations will admit that, hey man, GMS, they're the most researched group. Even the guys with vocab will say that. What other nations, the guys in those comment section, I saw one of them said that GMS is like, I don't know if they said they were the best, but they said GMS was the most well thought or most well researched, group, so it's kind of makes sense why they would think that we're like spies or something, or that we're government or CIA or something, because we're so well thought out, we're so methodical with our stuff. And it's not that we're CIA agents, it's just that we just have the spirit and we actually research, look things up. It's nothing like, it's nothing fancy, just got out of the spirit. So right, we pretty much read all that, right? I could read the 5th verse and we'll read on down, and I'll get some more info. It shall be as when the harvestman gathereth the corn and reapeth the ears with his arm, and it shall be as when he that gathereth ears in the valley of Ephraim. The whole land will look like a grain field at the harvest. I've gathered the grain; it will be desolate like the fields in the valley of Ephraim after the harvest. So it's pretty much land's gonna look picked clean. All right, let's look at Ephraim. West of Jordan, ancient inhabitants of Canaan, but every time you see giants, doesn't necessarily have to be giants per se. Sometimes when it says giants, it could just mean that they were very powerful people, not necessarily that they were tall. But in our cases, we were actually taller back then, because it says at one of those chapters in 2nd Ezra that we were of less stature. But whatever group that was living here, it's not the same group as the sons of God, that were killed in the flood. It's not the same group of people, which is us. It's not us. Sons of God where, you know, they all died in the flood, you know, except Noah. And then Noah came back, and he, you know, had his children, and his children went out, and then that chosen seed line went to Shem, and then it, you know, went on down. Don't question me on it. I think it's Genesis the 10th chapter that goes on. And if someone asks me on the highways and byways, I would just go there and just read on down. But then you get like Pele and Ru, and then you go all the way down to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Right? Your gleaning grape shall be left in it, as the shaking of an olive tree, 2 or 3 berries in the top of the most barrel, 4 or 5 in the utmost bow, branches thereof, 4 or 5 in the utmost fruitful branches thereof, saith the Lord God of Israel. Right? Yeah. So this is here. Only a few of his people be left, like straight olives left on his tree after the harvest. Only 2 or 3 remaining in the highest branches, 4 or 5 scattered here and there, and on the limbs, saith, declares the Lord, you know, Yahweh, the power of Israel. Right? So pretty much there's not going to be a lot of people left. You know, that reminds me of what you can read about. Is it 2nd Ezra 15 or 16 that goes into something very similar? You know, how there's going to be like no one to pick the grapes, no one to farm. There's going to be no one to marry the woman. The women are going to wail because they're going to have no husbands, because of just the amount of war and death that's going to take place. You know, not just in America, but all over the world. You know, when all this shit really hits the fan, and, you know, things are starting to look like that, economy's worsening, you know, BRICS nations are getting together, gas prices are rising up, you know, they're fucking bleeding the people dry out of their wealth, and eventually something's gonna snap, and the people are gonna go there, you know. In that day shall a man look to his maker, and his eyes shall have respect to the Holy One of Israel, and he should not look to the altars in the work of his hands, neither shall he respect that which his fingers have made, neither either the groves or the images. Right? And, you know, looking at that, you may think, oh, this is talking about something that's going to happen in our time now. No, this is still talking about history, and we'll get this here. So this is page 295, Halley's Bible Handbook. Continuation of the thought of chapter 7, probably written about the same time during the Syro-Israelite attack on Judah, 734 BC. I don't think I read this yet. I kind of had a take before this because I kind of screwed it up, and so I just kind of went back and just like redid it. I'm pretty sure I didn't read this yet. And I feel shortly thereafter, invasions of Tiglath, Pileser, and Sargon, which really, you know, we say Shalmaneser V, but according to this book, they still have Shalmaneser V. You could say it started with him and then went to Shalmaneser V and then Sargon II. It is directed against Israel, also verse 3-4. Because they were in allegiance with Damascus, look to their maker, that the remnant left in another kingdom return to, says Jehovah, but it's really Yahweh. It's indicated in 2 Chronicles 34:9, right, which you could read that, right, it's actually true. Close with the vision of the overthrow of the Syrians, and following the victory over Syria and Israel, you know, 12-14 verse. And, you know, we'll just continue reading on here. That's pretty much what you need, right? So this is just history, because you look on the 9th verse, right? In that day shall a strong city be as a forsaken bow, and his uppermost branch which they left, because of the children of Israel, and there shall be desolation, right? So, you know, when it says that, you know, it says that our lands will be built up, but this is saying our lands will be destroyed, you know, because thou hast forgotten the power of thy salvation, has not been mindful of the rock of thy strength. Therefore shalt thou plant pleasant prance, and shall set it with strange lips. Right? Because you have turned from the God who can save you, you've forgotten the rock who can hide you, so you may plant the finest grapevines, and import the most expensive seedlings. In that day shalt thou make thy plant to grow, and in the morning thou shalt make thy seed to flourish, but the harvest shall be a heap, and a day of grief and of desperate sorrow. Right? So they may sprout on the day you set them out. Yes, they may blossom on the very morning you plant them, which would never pick any grapes from them. Your only harvest will be a load of grief and unrelieved pain, right? Because you're going to get destroyed. You're going to get jacked up, right? Because they were wild, bro. Woe to the multitude of many people, which make a noise like the noise of the seas, and to the rushing nations that make a rush rushing like the rushing of mighty waters, right? And it's talking about Assyria. The nation shall rush like the rushing of many waters, but the multitude shall rebuke them, and they shall flee far off. They should be chased as the chaff of the mountain before the wind, and like a rolling thing before the whirlwind, right? Like a tumbleweed whirling before a storm, right? NLT version. Behold, right? Because you read that end part, right? They flee like chaff scattered by the wind, like a tumbleweed whirling before a storm. Well, at evening time trouble, and before the morning he is not. This is the portion of them that spoil us, and the lot of them that rob us, right? And this is pretty much, as you see here, right? Closes with the vision of the overthrow of the Syrians following the victory over Syria and Israel, verses 12 to 14, especially verse 14, right, of Isaiah 17 to 14, especially verse 14, which seems like a definite reference to Isaiah 37 and 36, right? And we can go read that, right? And this is pretty much about Sennacherib, right? 37, Syrians destroyed. Then the angel of the Lord went forth and smote in the camp of Assyrians 185,000. And when they arose early in the morning, behold, they were all dead corpses. So Sennacherib, king of Assyria, departed and went and dwelt at Nineveh, which is in. Hold on, no, I'm not gonna say that because that is Syria. Let's see here. Yeah. Capital of the ancient kingdom of Assyria, located on the east bank of the Tigris River, from its mouth to 250 miles north of Babylon, so Nineveh. But let me see here, something about Nineveh. There's something I wanted to say about Nineveh that I remember. Was it always Assyrian city? Oh yeah, yes. Yes, it was always an Assyrian city. Never mind. I was confused. So it came to pass as he was worshiping in the house of Nisroch, right, his god, that Adrammelech and Sharezer, his sons, smote him with the sword, and they escaped into the land of Armenia. And as a heart on his son, reigned in his stead. Right, so he got his shit rocked. Okay. So. Right, just some extra pieces of history. We pretty much read the stuff about the captivity of Israel by Assyria. I'm pretty sure we already got into that. Roughly, these are just the kings of Assyria, right? This is 210 Ahaz Bible Handbook. Ashur-nasirpal, 885 to 860 BC, right? Warlike and cruel, all the Assyria to the best fighting machine of the ancient world, right? So we can skip on down. Tiglath-Pileser III. 747 to 727. Pul was his personal name. He carried North Israel to captivity, 734 BC. See under Isaiah, the 7th chapter. Shalmaneser V besieged Samaria, died in the siege. Yeah, that's what I remember hearing. Sargon II, complete destruction of Samaria and Israel's captivity. Right, so he completed it. Sargon II. Sargon I was a Babylonian king of 2,000 years earlier. Now 2,000 years earlier, I don't know if Assyria already took over Babylon and moved up in there by that point, because as we all know, Babylon was originally ran by Hamites, but Babylon in times became a place, because remember, Nimrod was a hunter, across the earth. He incorporated those people into him. Many peoples became part unto him. So you get the whole Tower of Babel. You had all kinds of different peoples up in there. Right. So Sennacherib, most famous of the Syrian kings, defeated by an angel before Jerusalem burned Babylon. See under Chronicles, 2 Chronicles 32. Then you have Esarhaddon, 681 to 668, rebuilt Babylon, conquered Egypt, was one of the greatest kings, right? And then I guess we can just close it off there, because we don't really need to get into the rest with it. So that's pretty much the fall of the Syrians. And then see, they had a few more kings: Esarhaddon, Ashurbanipal, right? Right. Then you have Esar-Etel-Ilani, Sinar-Sari Ishkun, right? Is beset by Scythians, Medes, and Babylonians. I believe Scythians are Japhetic people as well. Medes, Japhetic, and Babylonians are Syrians, I believe, at this time. The brutal empire fell. Right, as you get the fall of Nineveh, it was the Medo-Babylonian and Scythian empires that pretty much, took down, Assyria. So pretty much from Sennacherib 681 to like 620, 60 years, run about 60 years later, Assyria pretty much, got their shit pushed in. And they got destroyed, and the Babylonians came together, and they got their stuff together, and eventually they came down, and then got Judah and took Judah captive because Judah was starting to go bug out, and go crazy, right? So Lord willing, you were edified, and Shalom.